region, selecting a region and a time period, which a lot of you did an excellent job. If you haven't done that yet though, make sure you do that. And then in about 2 weeks, you'll actually choose an artist and an artwork from that time period and region to research. And then we'll continue every 2 weeks doing outlines, rough drafts, final drafts until the end of the semester. With that, you also had the unit exam. So make sure you go in and take those things. Unit exam is worth 50 points, I believe. Actually, no, it's worth 100. And the quizzes are very small. They're only 6 to 8 points, but if you aren't taking the exams, you're going to want to do that because that will dramatically affect your grade if you're only doing the assignments and the quizzes. So that's kind of a recap of last week and this week. Let's take a look to start at this extra credit opportunity that I'm giving you, where it is a cube where you're going to create the elements of art. Now, we haven't really gone over any of the elements of art because I'm going to do that in this podcast, but this is an example of what I want you to do. So if you take a look, it's going to be somewhat blurry, but I want you to design a cube. Your cube now is not going to have as many panels as there are elements of art, but I want you then to choose which one you'd like. Each panel of your cube you're going to designate as like an assigned spot for one element of art. So one may focus on line, the next one might focus on color, the next one might focus on shape, value, and so on. And we'll be talking about all of those elements of art individually. But I would like you can use any material if you want to complete it on the computer somehow, if you want to do colored pencils, maybe paint, maybe you want to go and do it with marker. That is up to you how you do that. I do want some time put into it though. So if you're, let's say we give extra credit of 10 points, I'm going to have you really push to do something kind of creative. This is open to any designs, any subject matter, anything like that. I just want you to kind of get your creative juices flowing and work on that. Obviously, it's not due, but it's something. So we can take a look. Here are some examples of just on Google what other people have done for this assignment. This one actually, each panel is also labeled. If you want, you could somehow create your design around the word for that panel, but that is not a requirement. And what you can do to get a form or a worksheet is you can simply just Google cube worksheet, and it will come up with resources where you can then click on one of these worksheets and you can actually print it, cut it out, and color from there. The ones with the tabs on the edges are very nice because it's nice to be able to either tape or glue together then. Ones that don't have tabs are a little bit more tricky. So that, or you can create your own cube. So if you want to do something on a larger scale, you can, or you can just print a worksheet from the internet. Either way works perfectly fine. So let's take a quick look. I'm going to show you a short video, and then we'll actually go through and talk about each element of art specifically. So here's this video. So that's a short video, just kind of giving you a quick brief, a quick brief look at what all of those elements are. But if we take a look at specific elements on their own, we can, check out these elements of art. So our elements of art, basically what they are is these are our rules or foundation that we need to create a type of artwork. If you do not have at least one element of art, you really don't have anything in front of you, because just even to start a drawing, you would create a drawing maybe using a line. And a line is an element of art. And so you can have multiple elements in one composition, or maybe you just focus on one single element. So let's take a look at the first one, and that is line. A line is a path that's moving, that is a moving point, and it's going through space. If you look at this example here on the board, it looks kind of just like scribbles, but these are different types of lines, and the lines actually also create a texture, which is nice to see. So in your line, they can differ between length, width, texture, direction, and curve. And there are 5 different kinds of lines, which are highlighted here with a red bold line. We have vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, curved lines, and zigzag lines. So you can see each one here. These lines actually, in this painting, create a shape. This is called Three Musicians by Picasso. This is a very abstract cubist painting. But here we can see how the lines were used to create all of these different shapes. And we have actually all 5 different types of lines shown in this painting. Then we have shape. So shape is a 2-dimensional area that is defined in some way. A shape is usually where you start at one point with a line and you connect your line together at that same point. It may have different angles, it may be curved, but it starts and stops at the same area. So for geometric shapes, which is also a term that you'll hear in math, you have square, rectangle, circle, triangle, and any shape with width or height. Here we have an example of Paul Klee, a painting that he created called Castle in the Sun, and he is focusing on shape along with color, but primarily shape in this painting. And you can use shape in many different ways to actually create your image. Sometimes maybe some of the small shapes actually create a larger shape as a whole if you stand back and look at it a little bit differently. And then we also have what's called organic shapes. And when I explain organic shapes, I try to explain like a puddle, or if you're creating clouds in the sky, leaves on a tree. These are all organic shapes where they're usually a recognizable shape. You can kind of explain it and other people would be able to understand what you're saying. However, they don't have a specific rule to them. They are more free-flowing and they do not all have to be exactly the same to be made. So here we have a Helen Frankenthaler painting along with a Henri Matisse painting to the left. So both of these paintings here are emphasizing organic shapes, and they look very different. So again, organic shapes do not necessarily have to have the same rules when creating that shape. Then we have form. Form is a 3-dimensional object. So you're taking your shape now and you're creating a 3-dimensional object that is weighted. So it uses and takes up space and mass. It may be a cube, where in a 2-dimensional shape, a cube would be a square, and as a 3-dimensional form, it would be a cube or a sphere for a circle. So form in itself has height, weight, and depth. And here is a Claes Oldenburg sculpture. He makes these very large, or gigantic, I guess you could say, sculptures. And this is an example of his floor cake. Here are a few more examples of form. You can see that it's three-dimensional. So here on the left, this wedding by Escobar, the background, part of it looks flat. So it looks more two-dimensional in the background. And then you have the bride and the groom standing forward as more of a sculptural element that is three-dimensional. So you kind of can see the contrast between shape and form here in this example. Then we have space. Space refers to the emptiness